Hi my people, welcome to our YouTube channel. This is Glass Ceiling Shatter, and we appreciate you so much for being part of this family. We've really grown a lot right now, and we want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for your support. Please, if you're a new subscriber and you've not subscribed, please click the subscribe button below. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being part of this family. So let's go now into the real issue or the topic of today. And the question that I want us to answer in this episode is, who really haunts our conscience in Kenya? Is it the religious leaders or are they the politicians? So why I'm saying this is because we've seen our religious leaders play a very big role. If you look at the elections that we've had, like from 2002, 2002, 2007, 2017, also 2013 that I didn't say, 2022 as well, our religious leaders come out and they speak. In all of those elections, they came out and said something. So, what I want to say here today is that the people that really own us in our country are not the political leaders, but rather the religious leaders. When our religious leaders speak, our conscience is awake. Anything they say, doesn't matter who says it, we always give it a second thought. And the way we have been grown up in our countries and in our families, we have been grown to depend so much on the approval and validation of the people that have that are older than us, a majority of us. So we depend on their opinion and we depend on their guidance. We depend on them telling us their experiences. Our religious leaders also play a key role. So in short, because life doesn't have a manual, we rely so much on what other people that have had an experience tell us. Now, let's get back to the religious leaders. Our religious leaders every time, especially the times that in Kenya we've had elections that we are said to have some problems or some irregularities, they have always come out to tell us, please, let's have peace, let's also have justice, and let's also try to calm down and let's love each other, which is very important. But then, in Africa or in Kenya in particular, we are not supposed to question our religious leaders. And it is because of the kind of respect that we have been told or we have been taught to give them. We believe that when they speak on behalf of God. They are our mediators. We believe that when they speak, that whatever they say, because they are anointed, we shouldn't even ask questions. That's the kind of orientation that we have been given since we were young, and we've passed it over from generation to generation. And so I know even when I'm speaking about religious leaders here in this video, a majority of the people are not really comfortable with this, because generally they believe that talking about religious leaders is disrespectful and is against God. Now, let's leave that aside and let's leave it for another day. Now, we have seen the urge or the need of our politicians to want to be associated with a particular religious institution. Some of them attend public rallies, cry tears, and because of their tears, we assume that we know that these people know God because they've shown us in public that they know God, and because we always feel like, because this person has a lot of money, if they have been able to humble themselves to cry in a church, then they must be very religious. But that is simply manipulation. Now, we've also seen that our religious leaders endorse some of these politicians. And even when they are elected, some of our religious leaders feel safe in the hands of some, feel that the church, or what we would say, the religion or the religious institutions and the religious leaders are more safe in the hands of some politicians as opposed to others. And this is where I want to open your eyes now. One thing that you need to know, when our religious leaders come out and say they represent our interests, they don't necessarily represent those our interests. Because our interests as the normal or common Kenyans are, we need a job, we need to eat, we need shelter, we need to have good health care, and we want to live in peace. It is much more than just prayer and peace. It is more of we feel that we belong together and we can actually be treated the same way. But for our religious leaders, as they are, because they are the people that negotiate on our behalf, like I've told you, we have religious institutions all over the country, from the north to the south, be it temples, be it mosques, be it churches, they are distributed inside our country in very many, we would say in their numbers. Some of them, in some places even we have more churches than we have hospitals and schools in total. So the vulnerable, the poor, those people that are crying every day in sickness will always go to seek for hope from these our religious leaders. And now, as we know, a majority of the Kenyans are poor. That's a fact. So those very poor, the massive poor, especially in rural areas, are mostly controlled by churches that have been there for years. Churches that have never closed, even during COVID. Some of them still had an opportunity to continue with their services, either online, either they would create social distance and also pray, or either they would meet outside to pray. So our religious leaders have maintained people. So who speaks the loudest to these people? Who is more closer to these people? Is it the religious leaders or are they the politicians? Definitely they are the religious leaders. So they come out, they speak innocently, they pray in a television when the results are announced, and they tell us to maintain peace and love, but they have a lot of power that they wield upon us, and the politicians know that. So the first thing that our politicians do that want to be elected is to buy the conscience of these our religious leaders and put it inside their pocket. After which, we cease to speak in truth, but we tend to accept everything they tell the common Kenyan, because they know that anything they endorse, it doesn't matter how dirty it is. Any person that, whether corrupt or not corrupt, they will make sure that when they bring back to the common wananchi, they have cleansed that person in a way that when we see these people, we will never say they were thieves of our money. The money that could have created hospitals, could have ensured that people were rich, created job opportunities, were all taken away. These our leaders will still, our religious leaders will come back and tell us, you see, this is a person that has been chosen by God. And because we respect God so much, we've been manipulated to imagine things, then we continue to accept the status quo as it is. So these our religious leaders know if we have true peace, if we have love, we have development, they will lose their relevance. And that is the truth, because a majority of our poor people go to those churches to pray for one thing: God to give them a job, good health, and everything. So they know they will lose their relevance. But one thing they don't see is that in Western world, religious institutions still exist, but they are controlled by the government. And they still continue to preach the word of God in truth, and not in the way in which they do it in our country. So as you are watching this video, because I don't want to make it so long, you need to start asking yourself, and you need to start testing the spirit, and you need to start understanding that speaking to God should be done in the private room and not openly in the public like the Pharisees would do, and crying and showing people that this particular individual is one that has been called by God while others are ungodly. So if the church and our religious leaders, particularly generally our religious leaders, want us to have good leadership in the country called Kenya, we will just have it in a second. Guys, leave us your comment below. If you like this video, please click the like button, and please keep subscribing if you've not subscribed, and let's meet in the next episode. Thank you and bye bye.